And all of this will be from William Burroughs' Naked Lunch, the Restored Text. The Rube. The Rube is a social liability with his attacks, as he calls them. The mark inside was coming up on him, and that's a rumble nobody can cool. Outside Philly, he jumps out to con a prowl car, and the fuzz takes one look at his face and busts us all. 72 hours and 5 sick junkies in the cell with us. Now, not wishing to break out my stash in front of these hungry coolies, it takes maneuvering and laying of gold on the turnkey before we are in separate cells. Provident junkies, known as squirrels, keep stashes against a bust. Every time I take a shot, I let a few drops fall into my vest pocket. The lining is stiff with stuff. I had a plastic dropper in my shoe and a safety pin stuck in my belt. You know how this pin and dropper routine is put down. She seized a safety pin caked with blood and rust, gouged a great hole in her leg, which seemed to hang open like an obscene, festering mouth waiting for unspeakable congress with the dropper, which she now plunged out of sight into the gaping wound. But her hideous, galvanized need, hunger of insects in dry places, has broken the dropper off deep in the flesh of her ravaged thigh, looking rather like a poster on soil erosion. But what does she care? She does not even bother to remove the splintered glass, looking down at her bloody haunch with the coal-blank eyes of a meat trader. What does she care for the atom bomb, the bed bugs, the cancer rent, friendly finance waiting to repossess her delinquent flesh? Sweet dreams. The real scene, you pinch up some leg flesh and make a quick stab hole with a pin. Then fit the dropper over, not in the hole, and feed the solution slow and careful so it doesn't squirt out the sides. When I grabbed the Rube's thigh, the flesh came up like wax and stayed there, and a slow drop of pus oozed out the hole, and I never touched a living body cold as the Rube there in Philly. I decided to lop him off if it meant a smother party. This is a rural English custom designed to eliminate aged and bedfast dependents. A family so afflicted throws a smother party where the guests pile mattresses on the old liability, climb up on top of the mattress, and lush themselves out. The Rube is a drag on the industry and should be let out to the skid rows of the world. There is an African practice, officially known as leader out, as the function of taking out old characters into the jungle and leaving them there. The Rube's attack become an habitual condition. Cops, doormen, dogs, secretary snarl at his approach. The blonde god has fallen to untouchable vileness. Con men don't change. They break, shatter, explosions of matter in cold interstellar space, drift away in cosmic dust, leave the empty body behind it. Hustlers of the world, there is one mark you cannot beat, the mark inside. I say, you can't save anyone from themselves. You will lose everything by attempting to play savior. You'll never heal the wounded. You cannot repair the damage already done by selfish parents, vicious ex-lovers, child molesters, tyrants, poverty, depression, or simple chemical imbalance. You can't undo psychic wounds. You can't bandage old scars. You can't kiss away ancient bruises. You can't make the pain go away. You cannot shout down the voices in other people's heads. You can't make anyone feel special. They'll never feel beautiful enough, no matter how beautiful they are to you. They will never feel loved enough, no matter how much you adore them. You will never be able to save the battered from battling back at a world that they've grown to hate. They'll always find a way to pick up where the bullies have left off. They will in turn become the bullies. They will turn you into the enemy. They will always find a new method in which to punish themselves, thereby punishing you. No matter how much you've convinced yourself that you have done absolutely everything in your power to prove your undying devotion, unfaltering commitment, and unending encouragement, you will never be able to save a miserable bastard from themselves. The wounded will always find a way to spread their pain over a vast terrain like an emotional tsunami which devastates the surrounding landscape, an ever-expanding firewall which will singe everything and everyone in its wake. The longer you love a damaged person, the more it will hurt you. They will mock your generosity, abuse your kindness, expect your forgiveness, try your patience, sap your energy, and eventually kill your soul. They will not be happy until you are as miserable as they are. Then their incredible self-loathing will be justified by the perpetuation of a cycle from which there is little recourse. Once you enter their free fall, it will be virtually impossible to turn your back on them. You will be racked with guilt, frustrated by your own impotence, and made furious for ever buying into their bullshit in the first place. Now, of course, the more damaged, the more charismatic, the more brilliant, the more sexually intoxicating, the more dangerous to your own mental health, I'd say. Burroughs would say, I know he said it somewhere. He would say, I awoke from sickness, that is the sickness at the age of 45, calm and sane, and in reasonably good health, except for a weakened liver and the look of borrowed flesh common to all who survive the sickness. Most survivors do not remember the delirium in detail. I apparently took detailed notes on sickness and delirium. I have no precise memory of writing the notes, which now have been published under the title Naked Lunch, whose title was suggested by Jack Kerouac. I did not understand what the title meant until my recent recovery. The title means exactly what the words say, naked lunch, a frozen moment when everyone sees what is at the end of every fork. The sickness is drug addiction, and I was an addict for 15 years. And when I say addict, I mean an addict to junk, a generic term for opium and or the derivatives, including all synthetics from Demerol to Palfium. I have used junk in many forms, morphine, heroin, Dilaudid, etc. I have smoked junk, eaten it, sniffed it, injected it in vein, skin, muscle, inserted it in rectal suppositories. The needle is not important. Whether you sniff it, smoke it, eat it, or shove it up your ass, the result is the same, addiction. When I speak of drug addiction, I do not refer to keef, marijuana, or any preparations of hashish, mescaline, LSD-6, sacred mushrooms, or any other drug of the hallucinogenic group. There is no evidence that the use of any hallucinogenic results in physical dependence. The action of these drugs is physiologically opposite to the action of junk. A lamentable confusion between the two classes of drugs has arisen owing to the zeal of the U.S. and other narcotic departments. I've seen the exact manner in which the junk virus operates through 15 years of addiction. The pyramid of junk, one level eating the level below it. It is no accident that junk higher-ups are always fat and the addict on the street is always thin. Right up on the top or top, since there are many junk pyramids feeding on people of the world and all built on basic principles of monopoly. 1. Never give anything away for nothing. 2. Never give more than you have to give. Always catch the buyer hungry and always make him wait. 3. Always take everything back if you possibly can. The pusher always gets it all back. The addict needs more and more junk to maintain a human form. Buy off the monkey. I've never been a heroin addict. I've done heroin twice. I've done drugs since I was 12 years old. I've done secanols, tuanols, Plaludes, Cracidils, Placidils, cocaine, ecstasy, MDMA, mescaline, chocolate mescaline, marijuana. Am I leaving anything out? I was never an addict, although I still like drugs. But you notice Burroughs knew enough, too, that basically it's heroin and, of course, prescribed medication, which is the most dangerous for people, I think, because it gets inside you in a way that nothing ever does. I think that drugs can be very beneficial when used correctly, but like anything, I think alcohol is far more dangerous than most drugs because it's allowed everywhere, and certainly people are killed in America on every weekend from drunken drivers. I'm not supporting drugs, but I wish they supported me. And actually, I was supported by selling drugs at the age of 15 on the streets, 16 on the streets of New York. Black beauties, secanols, placidils, Quaaludes, tuanols. I was never addicted to drugs. I was always addicted to energy. I was addicted to adrenal overload. I was addicted to, I wouldn't say I was a sex addict, but I was addicted to the energy of intimate communication. And I say this. I've spent months, possibly years, comatose on park benches, tracking the periphery of playgrounds, skulking through shopping malls, falling asleep in the library, trying to capture and trap a fleeting image. The image of a young boy at just the right moment in his life, that transient, fleeting second when an incandescent light falls on the hollows of his cheek, a splash of sunlight dances on his lips, and that blossom of purity etched deep within their innocent smile rebirths something in me that was lost a long time ago. There's something about how fine their bones are under their flesh, the possibility of shattering them under my need, skin pulled tight around bony joints, the flattering reflection of my own beauty divorced of disease, my multiple sicknesses, a withering away abated, transformed into a healing tonic, a sexual salvation, a vacation from the devastation that has ringed the wellspring of my life. Not that I could ever forget how much of my life has already been melted away, or how much I gave up or gave over or wasted, or how much has already been stolen or destroyed, or how many road burns have left their browning residue around my heartstrings. But let's face facts. You don't have to fight yourself too hard to fall in love, at least for half an hour, 20 minutes, 2 days a week, with a young boy who finds in you the love they never found in their own mother's arms and reciprocates it twofold. And I'll play mommy. I'm good at it. And there's nothing to lose. And what it is you gain is their life force, a transformation, a resurrection, a reckoning, a day off from playing wet nurse in a trauma unit, nursing damaged junkies back to health. But I'm too far gone now. I'm too fucked up, too ill-spent to really carry through. Shot to shit and forced to struggle against it, broken down, battered, used too much up. Nothing left inside my angel saving graces, that busted little cherub with dirty feet and greasy wings whose tender ruby rich kisses have resuscitated so many burning embers and dying remains that I have become like a mortician's reanimator, stuck forever in a purgatory that so many dying men have come to rub their poison against. Even my breath has become toxic, an aerosol taint of glue, sugar water, paint fumes, dead roses, and runoff. But young boys don't know that yet. They can't see it, can't smell it over my true essence, over the sweat of their own passion, over the smell of their own vinegar, saltwater, taffy, dirty towel, steam, heat. They wouldn't recognize it even if they did. They have no reference point, no landmarks, no track records, no wars below the belt. No idea what it's like to inhabit this fleshy prison of blood and bones, as if entombed in an unnamed Nuremberg cathedral, which 40 years later still remains swept to the side of a blood-stained street, the bones of her confessional stacked helter-skelter, shattered under the steel rods. The rebar of the enemy pilots who blew in one day with the taste of her death on their breath, and in the wake, there she still stands, torn to little pieces, praying to be glued back together again, praying for resurrection, for redemption, praying with blind faith and stupid adoration to a cruel and vindictive God that does not exist, that one day the wounds will heal over, that a dark angel will tumble down from the heavens, your name on his lips, and with a single kiss, the multiple fractures where memory and madness commit soul murder will cauterize, will mend, will dissolve. But as with most prayers, I'm wasting my fucking breath. Yeah, Burroughs, top that bitch. Let's see what he's got for us, shall we? Oh, gentle reader, the ugliness of that spectacled bugger's description. Who can be a cringing, pissing coward, yet vicious as a purple-ass mandrill, alternating these deplorable conditions like vaudeville skits? Who can shit on a fallen adversary who dying eats the shit and screams with joy? Who can hang a weak passive and catch a sperm in his mouth like a vicious dog? Oh, gentle reader, I fain would spare you this, but my pen hath its will like the ancient mariner. Oh Christ, what a scene is this. Can tongue or pen accommodate these scandals? A beastly young hooligan has gouged out the eye of his confrere and fucked him in the brain. This brain atrophy already, and dry as grandmother's cunt. He turns into rock and roll hoodlum. I screw the old gash like a crossword puzzle. What relation to me is the outcome, if there is an outcome? My father already or not yet? I can't screw you, Jack. You was about to become my father, and better to cut your throat and screw my mother, playing it straight, than fuck my father, or vice versa, mutatis mutandis, as the case may be, and cut my mother's throat. That sainted gash, though it be his best way I know to stem her word hoard and freeze her assets. I mean, when a fellow he caught short of the switches and don't know is he to cover up his ass to great big daddy or commit a torso job on the old lady. Give me 2 cunts and a prick of steel and keep your dirty finger out of my sugar bum. What do you think I am, a purple-ass reception already fugitive from Gibraltar? Male and female castrated he them, who can't distinguish between the sexes. I'll cut your throat, you white motherfucker. Come out in the open like my grandchild and meet my unborn mother in dubious battle. Confusion hath fuck his masterpiece. I've cut the janitor's throat quite by mistake of identity, he being such a horrible fuck like the old man. And in the coal bin all cocks are alike. Now this is Burroughs at his most abstract, which I love because it's hilarious, and which ultimately is just a bunch of dirty thoughts strung together and cut up on a piece of paper and then glued back together. But that's all good, isn't it? That's all good. Yeah. This is my addiction. I fell into his hollow, the vacuum in his eyes, that empty space inside where beyond his obvious pain, trauma, tragedy, a little boy had long ago been murdered, butchered, bludgeoned, massacred. Left abandoned on some shit-stained road marked not on any map but well-defined enough to read in Braille. And it was written all over Johnny. Dead end. Do not enter. End of the road. Cul-de-sac. No outlet. Lost highway. I should have known better. I did know better. I just couldn't stop myself. You see, Johnny bruises a tender ache inside of me. Even after an all-night bender, when he comes swaggering back to my bunk, bent on an ugly kind of drunk, stinking on wild Irish rose, sporting another black eye and limping again. The way his face lights up when he knows I'm half awake, been waiting up, staring down the clock, sucking up caffeine and codeine, worried, sick, and swollen from not enough sleep, and pissed off. Yeah, I'm fucking pissed off. What took him so long? But I'm thrilled and I can't fake a cock on, because I just want to kiss. And he gets to live another day, so I get to live another day, which is all the reason I need to forgive him, at least for now. Because I can't face the fucking fact that one day I may have to live without him. And that day may come sooner than either of us want to admit. But for today, for right now, which is all that matters, he wasn't set up and offed in some 2-bit hustle. They didn't play patsy to a sleazy pickup line whispered under the breath of a serial-killing sex stalker. He didn't stumble into a speeding car before passing out and pissing all over himself. He didn't fall off a fire escape trying to jimmy open and pry out one of the frail old sex queens from a ratty roach-infested bed set on fire in an opium haze by a lit cigarette dropped from the limp fist of some young trick he got dope dick and the drips off of, which he almost did. Fall 5 stories, that is. From the roof, the shitbag hotel he night watches, and he didn't even try to catch himself. He didn't care. He said he was ready to curse creation and kiss the concrete just to see how many bones would shatter and how bad it would feel when they did, but his belt got looped around a broken rung, and instead of wringing his neck, it saved his ass. And that was just last week. If I was a soldier, I'd trip over a landmine, he'd laugh. Small belly chuckle eyes, not faking too hard an innocence he still manages to maintain, and with all my might, try as I do, I just can't decode how. But the beauty is, Johnny doesn't get it either. He doesn't see it. He can't feel it. He's so busy dousing his wounds with betadine, counting his scars, picking at scabs, another hairline fracture here, a small concussion there, bloody rags wrapped around the temple, soaking up the fallout from the body, his battlefield to be trampled under by his big black boots. Stormtroopers kicking the shit out of the enemy within, waging counter-offensives which will guarantee mutually assured destruction, not only against himself, not only against me, but aimed directly at the shell-shocked and battle-fatigued little boy who screams for ceasefire in the bunker and wants his mommy to kamikaze into the demilitarized zone, that uncharted territory where a part of him still lives. The part that cowers in the far corner late at night, scared of shadows and holy ghosts, scared of losing life before figuring out exactly what it fucking means to be alive, and life is just an endless barrage of bullshit and petty disasters where losing whatever it is you're desperately trying to hold on to is not only natural, but almost genetically pre-programmed in. And Jesus Christ, I want to save him from himself. I want to take care of him. I want to mother him. I want to love him. I want to get him to love himself. I want to be saint, savior, and favorite sin, but we're both sick with need. We're sick on each other, and not a single day goes by that I don't whisper a stupid prayer that smears God's name to keep him safe, but he's not fucking safe. He's not safe. He's not safe from me, and I'm not safe from him. Not safe. Not safe. Yeah. Let's go back to this. Let's finish this off. The pusher always gets it all back. The addict needs more and more junk to maintain a human form to buy off the monkey. Junk is the mold, monopoly, and possession. The addict stands by while his junk legs carry him straight in on the junk beam to relapse. Junk is quantitative and accurately measurable. The more junk you use, the less you have, and the more you have, the more you use. All the hallucinogenic drugs are considered sacred by those who use them. There are peyote cults and hashish cults and mushroom cults. The sacred mushrooms of Mexico enable a man to see God, but no one has ever suggested that junk is sacred. There are no opium cults. Opium is profane and quantitative like money. I've heard that there was once a beneficent, non-habit-forming junk in India. It was called Soma, and is pictured as a beautiful blue tide. If Soma ever existed, the pusher was there to bottle it and monopolize it and sell it and turn it into plain old-time junk. Junk is the ideal product, the ultimate merchandise. No sales talk necessary. The client will crawl through a sewer and beg to buy it. The junk merchant does not sell his product to the consumer. He sells the consumer to the product. He does not improve and simplify his merchandise. He degrades and simplifies the client. He pays his staff in junk. Junk yields a basic formula of evil versus the algebra of need. And I think this is Burroughs' most brilliant line, the algebra of need. He gets it here. Junk yields a basic formula of evil versus the algebra of need. The face of evil is always the face of total need. A dope fiend is a man in total need of dope. Beyond a certain frequency, need knows absolutely no limit or control. In the words of Total Need, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. You would lie, cheat, inform on your friends, steal, do anything to satisfy total need, because you would be in a state of total sickness, total possession, and not in a position to act in any other way. Dope fiends are sick people who cannot act other than they do. A rabid dog cannot choose but to bite. Assuming a self-righteous position is nothing to the purpose unless your purpose be to keep the junk virus in operation. Yeah. Now, just because I was never an addict doesn't mean I haven't lived with addicts. Because I have. And as I said, they're always so fucking attractive and manipulative. Johnny could stubbornly avoid sleep for 46, 68, 72 hours at a time. Propelled by alcohol, speed, coke, adrenaline, or just sheer panic, he'd string himself so far out he could barely light a cigarette or raise a bottle. Trembling hands massaging leg spasm. Chapped lips cracked by pointy canines, X-ray eyes detecting invisible monsters who'd steal him from me as he night-stalked energy trails, failing stars, fading headlights, meteors, night birds, stray cats. He'd have a flashlight cocked to his hip, a butcher knife in the torn back pocket. He'd be sneak-peeping around corners, frozen in door frames. He'd be glued to the windowsill, peeking through a cigarette burn in the fabric. He'd be paralyzed at the foot of the stairs. Paranoid agitation strangled the hours. It fueled his psychosis. It poured the shit out of me, forcing me into silence. He'd attempted to code the flow of traffic 2 blocks away, the scampering of rats in the next building, an anthill under construction in the backyard. It was like he was on an insane reconnaissance mission. The enemy, a sonic surround. Every creaky floorboard, rattling pipe, electrical hum, it was like a forged television static which seemed to leak from his ears out, filling the room with a reverberating symphony of sub-decibel tones only he could hear. It was like a swelling claustrophobia. The cold sweat on his brow expanded like a freak weather pattern which coated the room in a dense fog of atmospheric perspiration. And sex, became impossible. Johnny just couldn't focus. I'd be curled around him, one leg snaked high up on his hips, wiggling against him, and he'd be teasing me with cool fingers, tickling my inner thighs, whispering about the texture of my flesh and how its plump satin was as sweet as honeyed butter, and to be suffocating there was to be buried alive, inhaling my heat. It was heaven, the only place he felt safe, the only place he felt home. I'd cry for him to take me, to give me more, to feed it to me, to just give me more. Now I was addicted. Finish me off, do something, anything more, please, now, goddammit. And then a car door would slam halfway up the block. He'd jump out of bed, mute the stereo, turn off the lights, run to the window. Jimmy would open a crack to get a better look. He'd weave like a punch-drunk boxer attempting to spy a crack in the darkness through which he could narrow his vision in order to locate the intruder. He'd go through this routine 6 or 7 times a night. Sentry at his post for countless hours, waiting for the imaginary invader to materialize, forever convinced that whoever was out to get him, for whatever reason, was sure to eventually appear, pull up right in front of my apartment, kick the goddamn door in and take him away. No amount of practical reasoning would sway his dedication to this bizarre night watch. I assumed it was a hangover from digging the graveyard shift at the shitty hotel he used to work at. Try to convince him of that. He wouldn't hear it. Eventually I'd grow bored, begin to fume, leave the room, frustrated, pissed off, dejected, horny. His paranoia began to batter my resolve. The end whimpered in like a small, sick breeze one spring night. We were lying on the couch, softly purring into each other's mouth. So worked up and wet, the cushions were sticky. He was on top of me, his beautiful face inches away from mine, eyes half closed, lips parted just enough for the tip of his tongue to taste my breath. I blew in his mouth. He inhaled a whisper of moist heat, blew it back at me. Light kiss, bliss, dreamscape, dissolve, and the sound of small claws scampering on the roof. Must be the raccoons in heat. Such was the season. Johnny bolted off of me, wild-eyed, panicked, pulling out his hair, his eyebrows, pulling at his lips, muttering, I knew those fuckers would come back. Bastards! Where's the knife? Where's the fucking buck knife? Hurry up and get the buck knife. Like, what? Bastards? Who's come back? Bewildered, drained, I was ready to give up. The assholes have been taping me. I knew they were taping our conversations. I saw them in a black van last week. Cameras, tape recorders, parked out front. They're back, and now they're on the roof. Shit! They are not on the goddamn roof. Get a fucking grip on yourself, Johnny. It's probably just a fucking raccoon. We had been through this before. A week earlier, and the week before that, and the week before that. 4 a.m. I forced him out of bed and led him by the hand to stand across the street from the apartment, arguing for 2.5 hours about the construction of the roof. I was unable to assure him that it was slanted to such a degree that no human being, except for Spider-Man, had the dexterity to dance, walk, run, or climb upon its slanted gables. He was not convinced. Yeah, well, raccoons don't sit in vans, shoving a microphone out the side of the window, do they? Do they? What the hell are you talking about? Shh, shh. Did you hear that? Yeah, I do. And if it was fucking human and it heard us making a freaking racket, don't you think they just goddamn split, jump off the roof, be out of here? I'm calling the cops. No, you are not calling the cops. Are you fucking nuts? There's drugs all over the house. They'll take one look at you and call for an ambulance. Where's the phone? Where's the goddamn phone? Johnny flipped the pillows off the couch, turned the chairs over, knocked the TV off the shelf, checked his back pocket, my purse, in search of the phone, finding it finally, where it always was, on the kitchen counter, and stupidly dialing 911. I snatched the phone away to hang up, calling him a fucking asshole. It rings in my hand. He grabs it back, conspiratorially whispering to the operator, who by law will respect Penal Code Section 13730 and dispatch a fucking squad car immediately. It's you, isn't it? Isn't it? The guy in the black van. I knew it was you. I knew it. Yeah. Now that's